Are you a narcissist or do you have narcissistic friends? I took a narcissist test and I scored 6 to 7 on 13.
And I scored the same, around 6 to 7. So I am wondering whether I am borderline narcissist or not.
Well, we actually read a book. And if you want to do your narcissist test, then listen in right till the end of this show.
So, how do we decide and how do we know if somebody in our lives or we ourselves are narcissistic? What are the factors that determine what are narcissists?
It's a word that's been bandied about a lot. There is no Instagram post that every other day doesn't talk about narcissism as a psychological disorder. Well, there's this wonderful book called The New Science of Narcissism by W. Keith Campbell, who is a professor of psychology in the University of Georgia. It's co-authored by Caroline Christ. And it is a book that everybody must read to steer clear of narcissists or to modify their own narcissism to become slightly more tolerable.
You know, this reminds me of that meme which says, what if you're saging the house and you pass out because you're the demon?
That's a good one.
So what if we read this book to find out if we are living with narcissistic people, but we are the narcissists?
Well, the thing is that both Kiran and I have scored about 6 to 7 on 13, which sort of is a safe zone because after 7 is on the borderline, and after that is when you're a bona fide narcissist. But I'm sure we all know enough people in our families, at our workplace, perhaps in a relationship with men or women,
Our
in our friend
friends.
circle.
Yeah.
But before we begin this conversation, it's very important to know what is the actual definition of a narcissist, because the Greek mythology, where this gentleman who was called Narcissus, who fell in love with his own reflection and drowned in it and died eventually, and finally a narcissus plant grew over there, is not exactly a psychological definition, because it sort of gives you an idea of someone who's obsessed with their own physical beauty. But today, the word in psychological terms extends far beyond that.
But the misconception continues. People still think that narcissism is about physical beauty. It isn't. It isn't about being obsessed by your looks.
It is also.
It is also. It is
That's
a
a
part of it.
facet of narcissism.
It's a part of
But
it.
essentially, Kiran, in this book, he talks about 2 types of narcissism. It's his life's work. He's dedicated it to understanding narcissistic people. And his previous book was called The Narcissism Epidemic, which, as we know, is really upon us. So there are 2 types of narcissistic personalities. One is a grandiose type. I think Donald Trump would typically be a narcissist by that standard, because he has a very inflated sense of self, a very high opinion of himself, arrogance, lack of empathy, and
very
lack of
sharp-
self-awareness.
Lack of self-awareness and a very sharp reaction to being criticized or to being ignored or to
Correct.
be reacted to.
Correct.
Also, we have Elon Musk, who is another textbook example of a narcissistic personality.
Absolutely. And they're also manipulative. That's the other thing, that narcissists are all manipulative. But the kind of narcissism that interests me more is the one that is around us, but we don't immediately pick on it. It's the vulnerable narcissist. A vulnerable narcissist is somebody who, while being self-absorbed, extremely selfish, has slight self-esteem issues. And so they are insecure, react even more harshly to criticism than the grandiose narcissist. And they are sort of parasitic in the sense that if you're in a relationship with them, they make everything about themselves. And if something is not working out, they blame it on everybody except themselves. So while the grandiose narcissist requires an ego massage because he already thinks the world of himself, the vulnerable narcissist is so shaky in his own sense of self that he needs an ego massage, because he constantly wants his partner or his friends to make everything about him. So he continues to feel good about himself. And this is the tricky one. And I actually thought about it, Kiran. I know a lot of vulnerable narcissists.
We all do. I think we all encounter them in every stage of our lives, whether it is the girl from school who kept saying, that if the teacher liked me better, I would have gotten more marks.
Right.
And if it's somebody who was with you in college and said something like, if I had a better figure, that boy would have been after me. It's all circumstances around them that are against them.
Yeah.
The world is against them.
Or if you hadn't acted so aggressive about it, I would have landed the project.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or you
at
all
work.
screwed up the project. I was the one that took it through.
Right.
So everything is about the other people
Why,
messing up.
even in relationships, you see, an insecure narcissist will say, "We went to the party, but you kept talking to that guy."
Mm-hmm.
If you're with a narcissistic boyfriend, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or he will find fault in your behavior towards him, even when actually you're just operating from a very normal
Mm-hmm.
scale of how you should conduct yourself in a relationship. But he needs that constant reassurance, he or she.
Hmm.
So everything will be, and there's a certain degree of gaslighting involved too.
Absolutely, total
Yeah,
gaslighting.
yeah.
Whereas the grandiose narcissist will go into a party and make it all about himself. He will zoom in onto the most attractive women, charm them over,
Love bomb them.
love bomb them. He will be the life and soul of the party, and then he cares a damn about it.
Actually, this book is a very useful tool, and everybody can benefit from their conducting their relationships at workplace and in their personal lives, because sometimes you may even have a narcissistic parent or a
Absolutely.
narcissistic child. And the thing is that it's so insidious that if you're with a narcissist from close quarters, you might start self blaming. So if your relationship with a narcissistic person ends and he blames it all on you, what did I do to lose his interest? If it's a grandiose narcissist, what did I do to mess it up? How did it change? But the fact is that narcissists are very attractive people because they know how to practice charm. The challenge is that he gives an example of a chocolate cake. He says that think about a decadent chocolate cake. It's attractive. If you see that next to a healthy chicken salad, you will clearly go in for the decadent chocolate cake.
No, no.
Uh,
Not now.
not
Not
you're
now.
on a diet.
Not now.
But chances are, on an average, and he's an American writer, I know how Americans' relationship with food, so most people will be drawn to that. And it will give them a sugar rush. It'll taste far better than this dried up chicken salad. But when the sugar rush crashes, you will end up not feeling good later on. Aside from the feeling of gooiness and greasiness and calories, you'll also feel depleted of energy. And that is what narcissists do when they engage you. And it can be in platonic friendships as well. When you meet a narcissistic person, they'll be so charming towards you that you will be wondering what good, happy angel from heaven has smiled upon you that day that you've encountered such a person in your life. And where were you my whole life? Scarlett O'Hara, by the way, is a typical narcissist
Narcissist.
from Gone with the Wind. And when that happens, you will be in a rapturous state because they will shower you with such charm and wit and humor. But eventually, you will get dumped or you will end up feeling like you don't really exist because everything is about them.
Everything is also a numbers game with narcissists. They are not looking at you as the one person they want to spend time with or they want to spend the rest of their lives with if it's a romantic relationship. They are love bombing you, they're love bombing 10 other women or men at the same time.
Maybe you think at the same time?
Or one after the other. It's just something that they want to do to prove to themselves that they are the greatest.
That's
they are
right.
irresistible. They are the best things in sliced bread on
Yeah.
earth. And it's not personal. It's not you. It's just how they operate. It's not that they have any kind of empathy or they might.
They
but
don't have much of an interest in you either.
Huh.
You know?
It's just what you can give them, how you can put them up on a pedestal, and how you can elevate them. You mentioned children being, you may have a narcissistic child, but I think most children end up being narcissistic. Then we grow out of it.
What I meant is, what I meant is that, I mean, you could be like 50 and you may have a 24-year-old narcissistic child.
Okay. But the way most of this generation is being brought up by helicopter parenting.
Yeah.
We are raising a generation of narcissistic people.
100%.
Add to this social media where the selfie game is on, you're constantly bombarding people with pictures of yourself. Like, look at me, get another selfie of me. It is going to brighten your day. Who cares about your damn selfie? I'm guilty of it. I used to put up traffic selfies all the time.
But I think it's, when I was actually researching this, Gen X was far less narcissistic than Gen Z, as you mentioned, not only because of the factors that you mentioned, also because when we were being raised by boomer parents, individualism wasn't encouraged.
Yes, that's true.
Conformity was encouraged.
The culture.
Now,
Yeah.
this culture of in an individualistic society started in America, okay? And Ayn Rand had at that time, because art is a reflection, it's a commentary on society, as you know, that the theory of objectivism lends itself to that, right? The pursuit of your greater self and your own achievements and your own desires. So now that the world is a narrower, smaller place because of interconnectedness, our children have grown up to believe that I matter, my opinion matters, which is good, but my happiness above everybody
Everything
else's.
else.
Okay, and that entitlement is the key marker for narcissism. So when you're meeting a narcissistic girlfriend or you're dating a narcissistic man, you will notice that their curiosity about you is very limited.
They don't need to know anything about you. You need to know everything about them.
Yeah.
When we spoke about this generation of kids, there was a very interesting research that was conducted. And the kids were asked to, college students were asked to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to, I think, 11 or 10. And most of them rated themselves over 5.5, 6 or 7. Each and every one of them considered themselves above average.
Yeah, better than they were actually.
They overrated themselves because this generation has been brought up to think, I assume that they are special.
But Kiran, don't you know? I mean, I went through this when I was raising my daughters, that this whole thing, your child draws a sketch and brings it to you. Mama, I made this drawing. Typically, a mother will say, beautiful, you are such an artist, my God. Actually, in Montessori school, they train parents and tell you that, say, what do you think about it? Instead of, because you think that you're pumping up your child with high self-esteem and confidence, but actually no. And the foundation of narcissism, more often than not, it's got a complex relationship with self-esteem, Kiran, but more often than not, there's a very deep-rooted inferiority complex at play.
And an imposter syndrome that also happens.
Yeah. So, by the way, I have a friend, and we don't choose our friends, our old friends especially, okay? So it's not like you're thrown into the world and you're picking and choosing people, and then you're, being able to steer clear of narcissists. People you've known over a long period of time become your friends, and then you realize they have narcissistic traits. There's this friend of mine. She's a good friend. When I'm going through a bad time, she likes to be there for me. But when I'm going through any personal achievement of mine, while she will praise me behind my back, because she is an achiever and she'd want people to know friends are achievers, if she's in the same room as me, she cannot tolerate the conversation revolving around me.
That's pathetic.
She cannot tolerate it. And I wasn't aware of it until I got published as an author. And then I realized that initially she distanced herself from me. And later on, when we would be in a social gathering together and somebody would start talking about my book, she would make a wry comment or leave that group where we were standing and chatting. She couldn't tolerate it. And that's when I began to understand that as long as the conversation revolves around her,
she's good with it.
She's good with it. But these are the same people, because gaslighting is so intrinsic to narcissists, there's very little self-awareness, that this is the kind of person that if your friendship with them sort of peters off, they'll say, they'll blame it on you.
Which is fine. I mean, you should peter off your friendships with such people, I would
Yeah, but
say,
sometimes
for your
you're
own
not
mental
aware.
health.
As human beings, you wonder what happened, what went wrong.
So there are a lot of friendships that come and go, and some of them I realize in retrospect now that I've been reading up on this have also been with narcissists. Similarly, I had a friend in college who was pretty accomplished, one of those, bright, golden children, great at everything. And I was like a lackey. Now, in retrospect, I realized that I was only there to pump up her ego. But, when you move on in life, you start doing well, then suddenly that person does not like you so much anymore. That person does not want your
That's
company
what I'm
anymore.
saying.
And I'm glad, because I'm glad I came to the realization very early on that this is a very toxic, unequal kind of a relationship or a friendship.
Right.
Not a relationship. And I was better off without it. Because every time you meet, it was like your plasma had been taken out of your body. You felt so depleted and drained.
Yeah, because they're actually thriving on talking about themselves, and you are feeding their ego. right?
And the only thing they want to know about you is how things are going bad in your life, not the good things.
Yeah. In fact, that's what I used to think when my friendship with this person was affected. I started thinking, but she was there for me at my bad time. So just because somebody's there for you when you're going through a tough time, and they bolt from there when you are celebrating success, don't get emotional or sentimental about that. They like to see you in a bad place and helping you. By the way, this is another very big thing. You'll find some people who are very helpful.
Altruistic narcissist.
Altruistic narcissist is such a wonderful category, and I personally, again, we all know people like that. I did this and I will do this for you, and you leave it to me, and I will sort your life out for you, and you want something, I'll ship it to you from Amazon. They are constantly at it and helping other people, and at a certain stage you'll feel like a bad person.
And then,
But they're only doing this because this makes
Them
them
feel good.
look good and feel good. They have this image, self-image, okay, which they are feeding by showcasing this generous personality.
and that's a very difficult trap, because once you get into that kind of a relationship with a friend or with any person you're not allowed to give back. When you want to return the favor, or you want to, be on an equal footing with that person in terms of, doing for that person, they're not comfortable with it. And that makes you even more
Oh, is that
uncomfortable.
right?
Yeah.
Because they want
to be the giver. They
I
want to be the
see.
doer. They want to be the big person. They want you to be indebted to them. And that is shaky ground for any kind of a relationship.
Right.
I mean,
And
even
in fact, actually, I know someone like that, and invariably, talking to her is so boring. She's very helpful in this manner, and until I read this book, I didn't identify her as a narcissist. And she will go out of her way to help people, but she only talks about herself. Okay, I introduced them. That's how they got married. I only did it. Yeah, I know this. So they're big name droppers. Narcissists are very big. The grandiose narcissists are big name droppers. So there'll be a lot of name dropping. Yeah, I know this one. I know that one. And I used to feel really bad when she used to ask me to hang out with her. I used to feel bad turning that down or finding an excuse. And I used to say, why do I not want to meet her? She's such a good person. Now I understand that, energy speaks.
she takes the plasma out of you.
She takes the plasma out of me. She is, oh my God, deathly boring. Me, myself. So if you say, I was, ill, oh yeah, even I was so ill last week. Everything
Thing
has
is
to
about
circle
around her.
around herself.
So I have a term for these people. I call them eye specialists.
Yeah, my dad used to say that. They're
Eye
eye specialists. Yeah,
They only specialize in talking about
I
themselves.
know. Yeah, my dad used to always say, this friend of yours is an eye specialist, I noticed. She was sitting and talking about herself. And everybody, yeah. So the thing is, narcissists don't have a genuine sense of curiosity
It's not curiosity. It is
about other people.
They don't care.
They don't care, yeah.
They don't care. They don't give a damn about you. It's not curiosity. Sometimes, okay, I am curious about other people because I'm a creative people and I'm a cannibal for their stories. I need to know.
Yeah, I am so curious. I can talk to anybody and to the extent of sounding nosy.
Yeah, but that's also a personality trait. Sometimes it can get annoying with people who don't want to
Have I
share this.
annoyed you?
Not so far. We've been sharing stuff, but I don't know if I've annoyed you too. But narcissists don't want to hear your story. They don't care. They don't give a damn. And if you even try to start telling them about something, they will shut it off. As you said, eye specialists.
Yeah.
They will turn the conversation back to themselves. But I was so sick last week. I almost died. I was taken to the hospital. They wrote out my death certificate. Then I came back to life,
Yeah.
if you just say you had a cold.
Yeah.
So it has to be bigger, grander, more virulent than whatever you suffered.
And the vulnerable narcissist, while they do make everything about themselves, and they always have a problem, by the way. There's always some issue a vulnerable narcissist will be dealing with and roping in the entire circle of friends to,
They're like wet blankets.
they are wet blankets. Yeah.
And it is, I think, a persecution complex also sometimes with some of them.
The victim complex.
The victim complex.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets borderline scary. I've realized that I have somebody in my immediate circle who is like that. Everybody is out to get you. The society.
On a bad day.
On any day.
Yeah.
If it's a good day, they can make it a bad day by whining about it.
Actually, I read that vulnerable narcissists have a tendency to be anxious and depressed. They don't have depression. That's a different thing. They don't suffer from anxiety syndrome, but they are prone to bouts of anxiety because exactly for the reasons that you just mentioned.
And they feel entitled to better everything. People treating them better, better services being
Yeah.
offered, people rolling out the red carpet for them. And when that doesn't happen,
Crib and complain.
they whine
Yeah,
nonstop.
yeah. The foundation of everything in our life is in our childhood, and as Freud said, that for the first 5 to 6 of your years of your life, what happens, and that's what frames your personality. However, Keith Campbell has a very interesting point to make. He says that two things. One is yes, the foundation of whether you're a narcissist, grandiose, or vulnerable is in your childhood, but when a parent is to figure out, listen, what do I do to raise a child who is not a narcissist, there's very little you can do, because a child is shaped not only by his experiences with you, it's also the peer group. And therefore he said that if you raise even twins,
They can be very different.
they can be very different people. So one is, I think, nature versus nurture. You're born with certain personalities.
And it's also genetic, I read. Narcissism is also genetic.
It is also genetic. Correct.
So if it is, then there's nothing you can do about it. But I think helicopter parenting is a great contributor to narcissism.
It is. It is, but you can course correct if your child is still young by a CPR technique. C is for caring, so be a caring parent and be caring. Show care, show what it means to be a kind and caring person. B is P for passion.
Okay.
So pursue what you do for passion and share it with your family, so that your children know that careers are built based on passion and not just for seeking fame or success or monetary abundance. And because a lot of people today are seeking fame for the sake of fame itself, and they want to get into careers that will make them rich quick. Because of social media and this whole narcissistic epidemic of narcissism. And so talk about your passions and your interests, that I love this, and then if that becomes your career, your child will know that you were pursuing your passion, and then the rest followed. And R is for responsibility. Teach your children to take responsibility for good as well as for bad. So if your child fails, make them think. Don't criticize them, and don't make your love conditional, that you didn't do well in class, so now we'll punish you. Punishment and reward is terrible, because it'll bring their self-esteem down, and that can also make them a narcissist. So this is the three things. And they said that, however, you will see that parents who put their children on a pedestal too much grow up to become grandiose narcissists. Okay? You are great, the sun rises from your arse, and that sort of a thing. Oh my God, you look the best today, you were the best singer. Overdoing that, as we see a lot of parents do. You didn't get the right marks, it's your teacher's fault. I'm going to come to school tomorrow and talk to them. You did not win this race. I'm going to ask the sports teacher to play the sports timing again. Let's have a look at that. When you do it obsessively, beyond reason.
And we see these all around.
I see these all around. And I'm sure you can take a guess at how vulnerable narcissists are created.
Absolutely. Vulnerable narcissists are created by parents who are cold withdrawing, who are not giving them the validation that they need, who are withholding affection from them, who are punishing them, who are treating them as lesser, as inferior, and not meeting up with their standards.
So their whole life, they will seek validation. And they will, of course, make everything about themselves, because a healthy person doesn't make everything about themselves.
I read something very interesting. A wise old woman, I forget who, said, please raise your children well so you don't have to raise your grandchildren.
Ooh.
So when we are failing at raising our children well, they're going to screw up when they're raising their kids.
Yeah, sure.
So it's going to be a snowball effect.
But that it is, and Louise Hay used to say that we are victims of victims.
Victims of victims, and breaking the cycle anyway. That's a different conversation.
But I fear for this generation and what they are going to be as parents. I know we've overdone it, but I think this generation is going to be too self-centered.
To be honest, I didn't overdo it. I was the kind who was like, call me if there's blood.
How nice.
So I was on the other extreme, and I felt that very often that I did not do enough for him. He was left on his own when he was bullied at school. I was like, you sort it out by yourself.
Oh my God, that's so smart.
That's not smart. It was like, how often am I going to step in for you? You have to deal with it yourself. When stuff happened in the playground, I was like, deal with it yourself.
God, I stepped in a lot.
I did not.
While saying don't be a helicopter parent to people, I stepped in a lot.
So I think in retrospect, maybe I was too neglectful.
No.
But I don't know. Maybe he's got enough coping mechanisms now. Maybe he still resents me for not stepping in. You'll never know. as a
See,
parent.
you'll never be a perfect parent, and which is why he doesn't place the onus of how your child is going to turn out to be on you. And similarly, he also warns people that when your relationship with a narcissist friend or a romantic love interest or whatever ends, and this is for younger people especially, please don't spend days and nights
Agonizing.
self-reflecting and agonizing over where did I go wrong, because don't forget that when a narcissist is wooing you, at that time they will also shower you with attention and display a very short-lived curiosity. So if you wonder why could I not hold her interest or his interest, it is because they are narcissists.
And if you have a narcissist friend and you can't break away, like Shonali, you can't break away, I did read about what you can do to keep yourself a little safer from feeling terrible. Setting boundaries, of course. Don't spend alone time with them. Meet them in groups.
I see.
Don't, whenever they make last minute plans that is to their convenience, don't accept.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Don't
They make
go-
last minute plans. Yeah.
Don't go by their convenience. Put your boundaries very carefully. I wish I knew about this earlier. I would have joined you, but unfortunately, I have other things scheduled. They say, no, please come. You have to come. You're going. It's going to be great fun. No, I can't.
Yeah.
And don't
And let them put in the effort, right?
let them put in the effort. They will not put in the effort. Don't confront them. Don't tell them that they're narcissists. Don't tell them that you don't like their behavior. Just withdraw yourself. Interact to the extent that it is okay, and it's on a very superficial level, because the moment you get emotionally attached to this person, you're going to ruin your own mental health over
Yeah,
this.
but most of us wander through life unaware of all of this. I mean, we're reading this book at our age. Imagine how differently my life would have played out had I known this sooner.
I know.
And can we talk a little bit about the narcissist parent and then the narcissist boss as well?
Yeah, the narcissist parent is a very difficult beast to live with, because the narcissist parent does not see the child for an individual that the child should be seen as. The narcissist parent is seeing the child as an extension of himself or herself. We've seen it with, parents who are super achievers in their field, and then they want the child to continue in that same space.
Yeah.
And they're pushing the children to do what they want. The child cannot often match up to the expectations. And that is immensely traumatizing for the child. Or that a narcissistic parent will goad the child into doing stuff to gain their affection. So whatever
they'll withhold their affection.
for until the child does something that
So it's
they
conditional.
It's conditional, and that is a very shaky foundation for self-esteem
Yeah.
for a child. So
Yeah. And it'll always be about, I was so ashamed of you today.
yeah,
You
See what
let
you
me
did.
down.
See what you did, and how will I show my face to my friends?
And then these parents are also very passive aggressive. So the child is left wondering, what did I do wrong? Why is dad upset with me today? Or mom?
So they may not be shouting and scolding, but they may be withholding of affection, long cold silences, not talking to the child, which is a horrible thing to do. I had one friend tell me that, my son did this, and he's a little boy, he's around 7 years old. He didn't get good marks, so I'm not talking to him. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, you're a bitch.
But Kiran,
You can't not talk to your child because he's not got good marks.
because of marks, I understand. But please understand that the template you grew up, maybe her mother did the same thing.
But she's old enough now to break that cycle.
That's what I'm saying. Most of us are not aware to break it. I have myself given the silent treatment to my girls when they have done back talk
Okay.
or they've misbehaved.
Okay.
Okay. Or yelled back at me. And I'm like, you know what?
Okay, that is fine. Back
But
talk
no,
is fine.
but I've done until and unless they've come back and,
And
apologized
apologized.
to me for I have given them the silent treatment for 2-3 days because
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
that's what I'm trying to tell you, that sometimes this self-blame also doesn't help. This is all that we know, and which is why I think that
Okay.
the human psychology should be a compulsory subject for everybody.
And not just relegated to the
I mean,
arts.
instead of teaching us boring,
Calculus.
physics and calculus, which is not coming much to much use in my life, I can tell you that. I don't know about you.
Nothing at all.
Okay, I mean the velocity of a ball and the speed of light and E is equal to MC square ain't helped me a single minute in my
And
life.
trigo? And trigonometry?
Oh my
What are we
God.
doing with that?
Differential calculus.
Nothing.
Listen, I can't do basic hisab also. I struggle with that. So
I'm embarrassed. I used to help Krish with his maths homework in this. I think in the 6th or 7th, and he came back with all of it wrong. So that's my maths
That's what
ability.
I'm saying.
So
So I'm saying, but what could have been useful would have been just basic insight.
yeah,
And
basics.
my dad had studied child psychology out
Okay.
of just sheer interest. And the minute I became a mom, I refused to leave the hospital because I was nervous that I'll bring this child home and I don't know how
Know
to
how to
raise.
care
So
for
I
it.
reached Candy Hospital, and he went to Crossword, which was just close by from there, and got me a book called Positive Parenting.
How lovely.
I haven't still read it.
Oh Lord. No,
Uh,
I read the old Dr. Spock. So I have raised him by the old Dr.
you know the
Spock.
Dr. Spock's own
It
son?
sounds, yeah, I know. But now it's too late.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
what's
listen,
done
all
now?
those parents who raise their kids and let them cry and they're caught.
No, no,
That was
no.
Dr. Spock's
No,
era.
no, no. That was Ferber.
Oh, that was
Ferber,
Ferber.
not Dr.
Yeah.
Spock was very clear. Trust your instinct as a parent, as a mother. Whatever people tell you, if you feel instinctively something about your child and your child needs something, respond to your instinct, which I
Yeah.
thought was wonderful.
So, Kiran, interestingly, he says in the book that, people, narcissists, like to chase sex, status, fame, and stuff. Sex, status, and stuff, the three S's, in the interest of building their ego. But the fact is that this is a self esteem issue. But actually, loving family and long lasting, stable relationships are what will actually give you a sense of self esteem. So he says, see, chasing uh, sex is fleeting, as you know, chasing fame
Also
is
fleeting.
also very fleeting. Go through People magazine. And from 5 years ago, you won't recognize anybody today. I think barring Kim Kardashian, who's the
Yeah.
number one narcissist.
I mean, Andy Warhol said it back then.
Correct. So, I mean, it holds true even today. And then he says that status is also precarious because somebody will outstrip you. Somebody will have more wealth, the bigger car, the bigger bag, the shoe,
Absolutely.
whatever, more Birkins. And then beauty. People today are so fixated on looking beautiful to raise their self esteem. But that is the absolute worst, no matter how many nose jobs or breast augmentation or whatever you might do, because he says that age will sooner or later begin to tell, and what will you do then? So I thought this was very insightful and important for young people to listen to today, and including even old people, I guess.
I guess. And this reminds me of something I watched on Insta Reels recently. There was a young boy, when he mentioned fame. He must have been barely 13 or 14. Now, he's some kind of an influencer in the USA. He was on the show where he was being asked why he does not speak with his family or communicate with his family, including his parents and his siblings. He says very coolly, I'm famous, they're not. That means they're not important and I don't want to waste my time on them. This is a 13 or 14-year-old boy talking about the parents who raised him.
Yeah, there you
And the
go.
parents were sitting right there in the audience. I think it was some sort of, they have these reality shows with interventions. This is what is happening.
Yeah.
Fame is becoming all important.
Yeah.
And I did not know this boy. He was not famous to me. So I don't know what he was gassing on about.
Yeah. So we asked AI to give examples of narcissists from our time, and this isn't me saying disclaimer or Kiran saying, it's AI saying.
We're not saying this.
Two names, familiar names from India came up. One was Salman Khan, and they say AI says known for his larger than life persona, sense of entitlement, and often controversial behavior that reflects narcissistic tendencies. But in his defense, I'll say he's got a lot of empathy.
He does a lot of charity.
He does a lot of kindness and charity, and not for pursuit of a self-image. He does it very quietly. So I think AI got that possibly wrong.
But AI is deriving its information from publicly available sources.
Correct. The other one AI said was Kangana Ranaut. Her public feuds, self-aggrandizing statements, and unwillingness to accept criticism have been analyzed through the lens of narcissism.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And now she's standing for elections.
Yeah. I mean, there were some sports people that I don't want to get into. There was Rakhi Sawant. She's cute. So
She's
we
an
should
adorable
leave her out.
narcissist.
She's an adorable narcissist. But Urfi Javed. Yeah. The Indian fashion influencer, highly curated social media presence, exhibitionist behavior, and need for constant validation exemplify narcissistic traits.
Is she a product of the times? She's totally a product of the times.
She is.
Yeah.
I mean, so is Ori. I'm sorry he keeps coming up, but I mean, this is what we have. This is
What
the.
have we been introduced to?
What have we been introduced to? Talking about Ori in every
Ori.
conversation, about narcissism, about entitlement.
About self-promotion.
Yeah.
Every conversation is Ori.
Yeah. Unabashed self-promotion. Yeah. And I think on that note, we can call it a day.
And if you have a narcissist in your life, if you think you have a narcissist, or if you think you are a narcissist, please go buy this book. It's by W. Keith Campbell.
It's called The New Science of Narcissism. And that quiz is in this book. It's not a Facebook quiz that people keep. By the way, people who do a lot of those Facebook quizzes are also narcissists. You are this person and you can look like this, and in your past life you would have been this. I mean, you do these things for entertainment, but beyond a certain point, the book also teaches you how not to be a narcissist.
So do get this book, do read it. It was recommended by Oprah. The quiz is devised by a qualified professional, and it will help you set your boundaries and decide whether you are a narcissist or not.